And it looks like we got Yvonne from DCA and Renee from DCA too as attendees. So,
Good morning, everyone. This is Carolyn McAloon. It looks like it's 10 o'clock. It looks like all our board members are here. So shall we call this meeting to order? Kathy, can you take roll, please, to establish a quorum? Is Kathy there?
Your mic button for her on the screen.
This is the moderator. Sorry to interrupt here. Kathleen, if you're able to hear us, if you press the down facing arrow that's located on the unmute button, you can select a different microphone from that pop-up drop-down menu. And Kathleen, we will share on the screen a troubleshooting slide if you would like to connect your audio through your phone. Thank you, co-moderator.
Elizabeth, Kathy says she's unmuted, and it looks like on my screen she's unmuted, and she's trying to talk, but nobody can hear her.
Right. Have she tried the down facing arrow from the unmute button? So basically it will be the mute button for her now since unmute, she's muted now. And selecting a different microphone from that menu. Okay. Kathleen, we'll do a quick mic check.
I'll give her a call.
Thank you, members of the public, for your patience. We will continue here shortly. We are trying to address some technical difficulties.
For some reason, Kathy's mic is not working, so she's going to call in.
Thank you. Welcome, members of the public who've just joined. Thank you for your patience. For the other members of the public as well who have been here, we are going through some technical difficulties. They're getting addressed here, and we will continue shortly. And I've promoted call-in user 4. If you can please unmute and identify yourself.
Hi, this is Kathleen Cooper. Good morning, everyone. I'm sorry for these mic difficulties. Can you hear me okay?
Good morning. Yes, thank you, Kathy.
Excellent. So we've called the meeting to order. I'm now going to call the roll.
Yeah, that's correct. At this point, Carolyn, can you go ahead and recall the meeting to order, and then we'll do the quorum establishment on the roll call.
Certainly. So I call to order this meeting of the Podiatric Medical Board of California. Kathy, can you please do a roll call to establish a quorum?
Thank you, Dr. McAloon. Good morning, everyone. Dr. McAloon.
Here.
Dr. Lee.
Present.
Maria Cadenas.
Here.
Dr. Manzi.
Present.
Darlene Trulio.
Present.
Samantha Chang.
Here.
Thank you. We have a quorum.
Fantastic. Kathy, thank you very much. I'm glad you're here. Glad your mic's working now. Well, this is an eventful first meeting of the year. We have a new president at the term. I'm really excited to take over from Judy. She set us up for success. And Judy, I know you're back there. You can send me a text or anything for any help as we get started with this first meeting of the new year. Thank you for your excellent service, your excellent role model. And if I can try to fill your shoes, then I'll be very pleased with doing that, because you started us off, and I hope that the ball is being passed as smoothly as possible. So welcome, everyone. And we have a new board member to welcome as well. Samantha Chang is our newest member. And do you prefer Sammy? Is that your preferred name? How would you like to be addressed?
Oh yeah, I normally use Sammy. Would that be okay?
Fantastic. Well, you bet. We'll use your preferred name. So Sammy, welcome to the board. We're excited to have you with us. Looking forward to meeting you in person, hopefully sometime later this year.
Thank you.
I'd like to start the meeting by just putting us all in the right frame of mind by just real quickly reading our short mission statement, which is to protect and educate the consumers of California through licensing, enforcement, and regulation of doctors of podiatric medicine. We all know this, that we took an oath, but just a reminder that customer protection is the lens through which we make all our decisions, and that kind of makes it easy for us, because as long as we remember that our duty is to protect the consumers of California, then that helps us make the best right decisions for this board. Moving on to public comments on items not on the agenda, just a reminder that the board may not discuss or take action on any matter raised during the public comment section, except to decide whether or not to place that matter on the agenda of a future meeting.
And Elizabeth, can we open it up for public comment?
Oh,
Yes.
thank you.
The Q&A is now open. The instructions are on the screen for your reference. Members of the public, if you're logged in and would like to participate, click on the question mark, typically located bottom right corner of your WebEx screen, and type the word comment in the text field that appears, and make sure it asks or goes to all panelists before clicking that send button. You can also raise your hand by hovering your cursor or mouse over your name. You'll have to have your participants panel open. So once you hover the cursor mouse over your name, you will see the outline of a hand. Click on the outline and that will raise your hand. At this time, There are no requests for public comment. Would you like me to close the Q&A feature?
Yes, please. Thank you. Fantastic. Thank you. Next, I would like to request that expectation is that we'll all review the minutes from the last meeting prior to this meeting. And I'd like to request a motion for approval of the minutes from our October 20th, 2022 board meeting, please.
Motion to approve, Dr. Lee.
Thank you. Can we get a second?
Darlene seconds.
Thank you. Any discussion on the minutes from our last meeting? Hearing none, Kathleen, can I request we take a vote on approving the minutes from our last meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
This is Brittany. We'll just want to open it for public comment before we take the vote.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The moderator, the Q&A.
On the minutes.
Thank you. I apologize for interrupting you there. The Q&A is now open. Instructions on the screen. Click on the question mark, type comments, send to all panelists if you wish to participate. No request. Would you like me to close the Q&A?
Yes, please. All right, we have a motion on the floor that's been seconded for approving the minutes from our last meeting. Kathleen, can you call the question, please?
Yes. Dr. McAloon.
Yes.
Dr. Lee.
Yes.
Ms. Cadenas.
Yes.
Dr. Manzi.
Yes.
Ms. Elliott.
Yes.
Ms. Chang.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Next, I'd like to welcome Jennifer Tompkins from DCA's Budget Office to give us our update and possible action on our budget. Ms. Tompkins?
Alrighty, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Perfect, thank you. So good morning. My name is Jennifer Tompkins, and I am a budget analyst with the Consumer Affairs Budget Office. And I want to thank the board and executive staff for allowing me a few minutes to present the fund condition statement, revenues, and expenditures. My manager, Renee, and I are also available after the presentation to answer any budget-related questions. Please refer to item 5, pages 1 through 3 of the financial report. These pages are the financial documents I will be discussing today. They provide a lot of information on the board's budgets, both revenue and expenditures. I would like to highlight some of the information and provide a little more clarity. On January 10th, the governor's budget was released, which provided updated budget numbers for the board that includes incremental adjustments to the board's current year, 2022 to 2023, and then budget year, which is 2023 to 2024, base budget, which was provided at a prior board meeting. So first we have the board's fund, the revenues and expenditures, which are on pages 1 and 2 of the document. And this shows the board's 2022 to 2023 expenditures and revenues in detail. Page 3 contains the board's fund condition, which is an overview of the overall health of the fund. For the fund condition statement, we read this top to bottom and then left to right. The left column is the prior year, and the board began 2021-2022 with an adjusted beginning balance of $481,000 based on actuals from the governor's budget galley. collected approximately 1.5 million in revenue and spent approximately 1.4 million in expenditures. The board ended 2020-2021 with a 517,000 reserve balance, and that's about 4 months in reserve. This balance moves then to the top of the fund condition and becomes the beginning balance for the next fiscal year. Months in reserve is the amount of time that the board can continue normal operations without any incoming revenues. For 2022 to 2023 current year, based on fiscal month 6 projections, the board is projecting to receive about 1.5 million in revenue. The budget office will continue to monitor revenues closely and report back to the board if any significant variances occur. The board's expenditures are projected at 1.3 million based on fiscal month 6 projections. Then in the last 2 columns and other columns to the right of the fund condition, we have 2022 to 23 or budget year, and then we have 2023 to 2024, which is budget year plus 1. The budget year and budget year plus 1 are assumed realized, meaning the board expends to the full appropriation. And just a few notes about the fund condition statement. I would like to point out, and this would be the case for all fund condition statements, that one of the main driving factors to the expenditures and the incremental increase in future years is result of personal service adjustments. This includes general salary increases, as well as employee compensation and the retirement rate adjustments. The budget office includes an ongoing 3% increase to expenditures on the fund condition statement to account for these ongoing incremental adjustments. The budget office will continue to monitor the board's fund condition statement and keep the line of communication with the board's executive staff open for any future needs or expectations, as we currently have no concerns about the budget's health. Again, I want to thank the board and executive staff for inviting me to today's meeting, and we will be happy to answer any questions.
Do any of the board members have any questions?
I think.
Oh, is someone coming on?
Hi, this is Maria Cadenas. Thank you, Jennifer, for your time and the presentation. Just a quick review. Can you just repeat again the balance projected for the next 2 years, please?
Yeah, let's see here. So for the reserve balance, is that what you're referring to?
Yes, please. Just the reserve balance, just the projected movement.
So for 2020 to 2021, it's 517,000. And then, let's see here. And sorry, I'm expanding my document. And then we have 614,000. And then we have 377,000. And then budget year plus 1 is 65,000.
Thank you. Just a question for the moderator. Is it possible for the public to see the documents being discussed, or is it only available through voice?
The only item that we have or presentation is the PowerPoint with the agenda items. However, if board staff would wish to share their screen and share the materials, they can definitely do so.
Brian, may I ask the staff if possible, just just to look at it. And I think it's
Yeah,
helpful
it's
to
on
look
the
at
agenda. It's on the agenda, and if you go to our website, it's the materials that are linked below the agenda. Now let's see what we can do here. Give me 1 minute here, because I'm working on 2 computers here. Let's see. Kathy, can you link that up? Or you're on your phone, right?
Oh, you mean, like, could I share my computer screen?
Yeah. Oh, Michelle's got it. Michelle's working it.
Okay, great.
Can you guys see it? My screen changed a little bit. But can everyone see it?
I can see your screen on the PowerPoint.
Not the document screen, but not the document.
One moment.
I just want to express my thanks for the staff for doing that. I just think it's helpful, especially with virtual meetings, if we can, and reviewing numbers.
Okay.
I think that it.
Oh, there we go.
My apologies for interrupting. Can everybody see the screen?
Yes, Michelle, do you mind zooming in a little bit for us, just because the font is really small?
One moment, yes. Okay, let's try this last time. How is it looking for everybody now?
More readable. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
And so the
Thank
first
you.
2 pages are the expenditures and then revenues, and a majority of the presentation is on page 3.
Right. So we haven't seen a lot of changes in our on expenditures outside of salaries, correct? So the projections are based on that same kind of pattern going forward.
Correct, unless the board lets us know of anything else, anything that's different from the previous year. But we
jump
do
in really quick because I have noticed a big increase in investigation costs, and I'm not sure which line item that falls on that budget sheet. I'll be speaking on it a little bit more in my report, but I just wanted to kind of find out which line item it is on the budget sheet, and so we can make a comparison when we get to that point.
Thank you, Bethany, because I think that's right. We have seen expensive increases there, and we talked about it, and I just want to make sure that we're thinking about in that reflection when we look at the fund condition projections that are being done, whether we are considering those potential increases and how that might impact or projected fund balance.
Also, to add to that, I see our renewal fees again. 2022, 23, they're an uptick, and then 2023, 24, they start to level off. And so, is there a reasoning for that? And that's renewal fees line item.
Oh, that's a good question. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, I can probably, if we can get Andrea on here, I think we're starting to see a decline of DPMs in California. So retirements, that whole thing is happening. And then the schools, like the Western, we went to the Western at one time, Podiatric Medical School. They used to have 100 students. Now they're down to about 28 students. So we have that decline as well. So it's just a trend. I don't know if we're going to get more people interested in pediatric medicine, but it's a trend actually nationally. So we just have to keep our eyes open on that and see what we can do. We're just a regulatory board, but there might be some ideas that we can push out there to try to recruit more people into the profession. How to do that, I haven't figured that out yet.
And I know this is never an option, or we don't like to add fees to renewal items or increase them, because I think we just did an increase.
We did an
Has it been
increase.
2 years?
Yeah, it's been 2 years. We are the highest licensing board in DCA. 13, a little over 1,300 for a renewal. We might have to revisit that. And I understand that medical boards are they're going to increase, and they might be the highest over us. But when we did our fee study, the projections we projected seemed to be right on fact. And that's the cost of doing business these days. Everything's going up, just like the price of gas is going up, and just paper, anything, and salaries, depending on the bargaining units, what they're establishing. So I'll keep an eye on it, and we'll find a solution.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Brian. Just for clarification, on the expenses, where would the enforcement AG costs be reflected in that budget?
Let me go back here. Bethany, do you have that spread?
I mean,
Right
there's
now, I can find it. It was the previous page that Michelle was showing. Is that the right
yeah,
page?
it's the one with the columns, the colored columns. I'm
The
assuming that's
AG
being used as the budget.
Yeah, the AG costs they rose like right during the pandemic, right when we did our sunset, and that was a huge concern for everybody. And it has stayed consistent. They haven't raised anything. However, DCA investigators, those prices have just risen. So we have
So for the
sworn
purposes
unit.
of yeah, I'm sorry, Brian, to interrupt, but so for the purposes of the fund condition, right? In terms of the expenditures that are expected, is that including that projection increase in enforcement, or is that just assuming kind of a conservative number based on trend? And I don't know if that's you, Brian, who can answer it, or if it's the budget office, but.
I think it's based on trend.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, just
still
the
not
note for us
sure
to
which
be
line
thoughtful.
item refers to the AG costs and which one refers to investigation costs. I'd like to, if budgets could tell us which line item is AG costs and which is investigations.
Yeah, so the AG costs, I have a quick question first. Also, can you put Renee Milano in the panelists? That's my manager. Just in case she wants to hop in as well. And so for the investigation costs, it's in the contractor's internal. So the CP services internal in the operating expenses and equipment. If you can see that. And so that includes the investigation costs. And then for, let's see here, for the AG costs. Let me pull
Hi,
that
Jennifer, let me
up.
hop in real
Oh.
fast. Hello, thank you, board members. My name's Renee. I'm one of the budget managers here at our central DCA office. The Attorney General line item is going to be in your contracts internal, and the actual AG itself, we're projecting about a $197,000 expenditure. That's based off of previous 6-month actuals, and we average that out for the remainder portion of the fiscal year. If the board is projecting maybe a higher amount for our future months, that's something we can build in. Currently, we're using just trend.
Thanks, Renee.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have no more.
Are there any additional questions for the budget office? So my understanding, this is just informational, no action item. Am I correct, Brian?
Yes, it's informational, no action here.
Thank you. Ladies from the budget office, thank you so very much for sharing your expertise with us. It's very important that we are responsible, do our fiduciary responsibilities. So thank you for bringing these details to our attention and answering our questions. We appreciate it very much.
Thank you, and thank you for your time.
Dr. McAloon, this is Brittany. We'll just want to take public comment before we move on also.
Thank you very much. Is there any public comment on the budget office budget for us?
This is the moderator. The Q&A is now open. The instructions are on the screen for your reference, member of the public. If you would like to participate, click on the question mark inside of the square, typically located bottom right corner of your WebEx screen, and type the word comment in the text field that appears. But make sure that you select all panelists in the ask column before clicking the send button. You can also participate by raising your hand. Just hover your cursor mouse over your name in the participants panel and click on the outline of a hand once it appears. At this time, I see no request for public comment. Would you like me to close the Q&A feature?
Yes, please. Thank you. So, Brian, are you going to give your executive report at this time?
Yeah, so we have the programs updates, and it's going to be licensing, and the chair of that committee is Dr. Manzi. Dr. Manzi, I'll punt this over to you, and you'll probably punt it over to Andrea.
Thank you, everyone. Yes, here's an update on licensing, and Andrea will now lead us in this. Thank you.
Good morning. So the following information is for the first and second quarters of fiscal year 22-23 between July 1st and December 31st. There were 41 newly licensed DPMs. There's currently 26 pending applications with 4 candidates that recently completed their packages. And so far, PNBC had 10 applicants. 22 were third-year residents from California, and 9 were third-year residents from an out-of-state program. Moving on to renewals, there were 534 renewals mailed with 488 licenses renewed by the end of the second quarter.
There was one new resident, first-year resident added in the first quarter, bringing the resident license total count to 127. Next, we have some Breeze updates. The following Breeze maintenance and operations were passed and put into production during the first and second quarters of fiscal year 22-23. BMO 1761 added the fictitious name permit renewal into Breeze. BMO 1561 put the license verification transaction online for licensees that had or have a permanent license. BMO 2060 added the submit additional documents transaction in Breeze for resident licensees. BMO 1763 added the duplicate license transaction in Breeze for fictitious name permits. And BMO 2544 changed the fictitious name permit renewal form into a postcard format. Next, we have a Part 3 update. The last Part 3 exam was administered on December 1st, and there was a total of 33 candidates that requested their score be sent to California. All 33 passed for 100% pass rate. The next exam will be held on May 18th, and candidates wishing to participate will need to register by April 12th. Next, we have a CME audit update. Licensees were mailed an audit notification on October 5th, and all candidates selected were given a deadline date of November 30th to submit evidence of compliance. As of January, out of 43 audited licensees, 37 have been found in compliance, and 6 were given an extension to provide documents by March 20th. Next, we have a discussion regarding a DPM's request to use additional certifications.
I'm sorry, can I interrupt you for just a second on the CME audit update? Is that a typo? Do you mean as of January 2023?
Yes, sorry.
Okay, I just wanted to, okay. Understood. So in the fall, you mailed out the audit, deadline of November, and then as of January of 2023, you have 37 in compliance.
Yes.
Thank you.
I didn't realize that was in the, sorry, I thought it was only in my notes. Yeah, so January of 2023, not 2022.
Okay, we'll just need to make the correction before the minutes are submitted on that. Thank you.
Okay, so next we have a DPM has submitted their Kent State University transcripts where they have obtained a master's in public health. Additionally, they submitted a copy of their certified health education specialist certification. They are requesting that the board review this documentation for use to satisfy the continuing competence requirement, Section G, as an extended course of study within the last 5 years.
Judy, did you already review this and have an opinion?
I did have an opinion. Do you want to talk about that now, or should we finish this first? I'm not sure which way you want to go with this.
Well, is that not where we're at? The discussion about the certification.
So
yeah, so
it's
Dr. Mandy, lay it on.
Yeah, so it's an interesting thing. He's done this master's in, I think it was medical education. Was that what it was? I can't remember.
Master's in public health.
Oh, master's in public health. So when you look at the courses he took, it was more along the lines of like, the trends in communities and community health and, what you would expect that type of degree would give you. I personally felt, that's fine. But the problem is if you read what we say that you need to, be studying for your CMEs to be approved, it's more about like so much podiatric surgery or podiatric medicine and a couple of these, I think some of them have to be radiology, that kind of thing. So that was the question that came up, like, what?
But I have a question. This is saying, from what I'm reading here, he's not asking to use this for CME. He's asking him to use this for the A through G continuing competence requirement. He's not asking to use it as, according to what's written here. It's saying he's requesting that we review this documentation to satisfy his continuing competence, the A through G section of the license, not his CME.
Oh, right. And is that, though, that was for his reading, correct?
This is for renewals, but
what
I think Dr. Mancy is referring to section 1399.675, where it says what an extended course should be. And it says it shall be didactic and clinical training that refreshes and updates knowledge and skills in common podiatric medical and surgical procedures.
That's what A through G should do.
Well, that's what that states. That's correct.
I mean, well, it's talking about the extended course of study, the specific, it's attachment H. And that's what we were
going off of.
Not completely sure about, because it states that in B. Is this master's in public health? Does it refresh and update knowledge and skills in common podiatric medical and surgical procedures?
So clearly it doesn't do that, but you know, and that's the problem with all this, like you know, the other language that's in here about continuing competency. Because think about it this way: what if you had someone who now does have a podiatry degree and also has a master's in public health, and you know, is not necessarily going to practice podiatric medicine in the terms of going into someone's office and doing it, but maybe he's going to work for a government agency or a hospital or, you know, whatever else. And you know, I personally thought it would be totally acceptable, but on the other hand, if it's not, if it's sort of like it's the same problem we have with our renewal of licenses, right? We put too many parameters around it. You know what I'm saying? So if you could maybe, if there was another clause put in this thing that said, you know, besides the fact that they're proving that they, you know, are working on their, you know, competency skills, that, you know, it's some sort of, I don't know, alternative kind of thing, you know, would be, then you're fine to accept it, you know.
And for clarity, this is a licensee who's renewing, not a new licensee, correct?
Correct.
Right.
Because this is about to become a moot point if our bill passes.
That's right.
So what I mean is, it's
yeah.
maybe a one-off versus a setting up. So, I mean, our bill hasn't passed yet, but this might be more of a one-off than setting precedents, correct? If this problem no longer exists once our bill is passed.
That's true. But
so that's why.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So I don't know if we can legally do this. Like, yes, go ahead and accept it, because that was my thing. Is like, it looks good to me. But if there was a clause in there that said, or something that the board approves, then, you know, and I think, isn't there a clause in there that says something about that?
This is Brittany. So when it comes to BMP code section 2496, which outlines A through H as the options that a renewal applicant can satisfy the continuing competence requirement, this request would seem to fall under subsection G, which provides successful completion within the past 5 years of an extended course of study approved by the board. And then CCR, the reg section 1399.675 titled Continuing Competence Course specifically speaks to that section G of the BMP code. And I know you, some of the members discussed this, but I want to put this before you because there is a specific reg that speaks to what requirements the board should be looking at in terms of whether it's the extended course of study meets the board's requirements. The reg does provide at subsection B, such courses shall provide didactic and clinical training that refreshes and updates knowledge and skills in common podiatric medical and surgical procedures. So I know it's hard when it comes to what we have coming down the pipeline in terms of possible changes to the BMP code section. But as it stands right now, this is the guidance. This is the reg that is supposed to provide guidance in terms of whether or not this applicant has satisfied the requirements for an extended course of study. So I would definitely point you to the relevant reg section when reviewing this applicant.
Right.
Hi, this is Dr. Lee. If I could chime into this issue. The way I see it is that as a board, I like to see us act on the law as is stated now, not act on the law that will be tomorrow. This applicant, if I understand correctly, is applying for renewal, and our renewals are what, every 2 years, correct?
Yes, every 2 years.
And if that's so, and if this person took time to get an MPH or a master's degree, which I'm looking at the transcript, it doesn't really apply to specifically to what we have in our current law. And I'm having a hard time understanding why this applicant in the last 2 years wouldn't have taken any CME pertaining to DPM courses, which is very unusual. We go through CME courses all the time. So for this particular person not to be up in the profession and learning and going through CME classes or conferences for the last 2 years bothers me in a sense that that's very common in our practice these days. And if I'm looking at our BMP code section 2496 and the continuing competency as is written today, I can't see how this MPH will apply for the renewal for this particular candidate. And I'm happy to discuss.
Hi, Dr. Lee. I just want to mention this doesn't mean that they did not obtain the 50 hours. I didn't request that documentation because that's not what they were asking for. So I'm not sure if they do or don't. I'm assuming that they do. This is just for the continuing competence. So every 2 years, you have to have the 50 hours and one of those pathways A through H. And so they're requesting to use this to satisfy section G as an extended course of study within the last 5 years, in addition to the 50 hours that need to be completed.
That's right. And my feeling on it was, maybe this is a person who is not board certified by one of the medical, because that's one of the ones that you can use, your board certification. And I can't remember, or you took the step through, you took the one of the tests within the last 10 years, or whatever. So I think if he shows that he did his 50 CMEs, and this is a program that we would approve as a board, why not let him use it for his continuing competency, alternative extra credit thing that we all now have to do, even though nobody else in the country has to do. But that's my point. So I thought that as a board, if you all thought that this is an acceptable thing, a degree in public health, that would be something we'd accept, then I would go ahead and accept it. That was my feeling on it.
Yeah, this is Carolyn. So I think this is a little bit of a hard spot. So I agree with Dr. Lee. We do have to work on today's rules for renewal. So I do agree with that, even to the point that this might not be a rule next year. It's a rule today, and I do agree with Dr. Lee that as of now, that is our regulation, that we do need to continue to use it. So right now, A through G does exist as a licensing renewal, and I think that it's true that until the law changes, that is what we're left to deal with, is my opinion. The second part is what I understand, and again, this is the tricky part, is that we do have the right to accept something, but it's supposed to advance your podiatric and really look at this transcript. Now, I don't disagree with you, Judy, that if someone spent this much time in this class, and we can make another assumption that learning these things also makes you a better doctor no matter what your specialty, but that's not what our regulation says. Our regulation says that it has to advance podiatric medicine and surgery. So that's where I think that our conundrum is if we accept this, it doesn't follow the rule that it advances your podiatric skill set in medicine and surgery is my concern. But not that what I personally think isn't fine, that I don't know if that's relevant if I personally think, yeah, it's fine. If a guy who asked me as a guy on the street, yeah, that sounds fine. But if it doesn't match our regulation, I don't know if we can approve it, even though we really don't have a problem with it. That's where I'm stuck.
Yeah, and that was the question, what exactly does that reg say about the board approval? Can you read that to me again? Which one is that one? The board approves a course. What does that say? Let's see.
Andrea, are we able to bring up the reg 1399.675 so the members and the public can see which reg we're talking about? Or anyone else who might be able to bring it up. I'm happy to read it, but I know some people are better visually. if anyone would benefit from me just reading the entire reg section, I'm happy to do that too.
If you could just read that one.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, why don't there are multiple subsections. So again, this is 1399.675 titled Continuing Competence Course. Subdivision A starts out with extended courses of study approved by the board pursuant to section 2496 sub G of the code, which is the code we've described that lays out the different pathways to satisfy continuing competence, shall be in addition and supplementary to those taken to meet the continuing education requirement. Subdivision B provides such courses, meaning within the extended course of study that you're seeking approval for, shall provide didactic and clinical training that refreshes and updates knowledge and skills in common podiatric, medical, and surgical procedures. Subsection C goes on to
that. So we can approve something if it does that, but this doesn't do that, is my concern.
Correct, and the language is the courses shall provide this type of didactic and clinical training.
Yeah, so I think that's fine. If the board, if it doesn't, I agree. We shouldn't change the law that we think is going to happen. However, with that being said, I think it's a very interesting example of how we limit our own licensors and how we really kind of are our own worst enemies. This would never happen in an MD renewal or a DO renewal. And I think this once again just shines a light on how ridiculous it is, because I think podiatry it would behoove the profession to have people with podiatric medical degrees that also are masters in public health, or this other courses now that they're doing called it's medical educational specialist, something like that. In fact, Kaiser is now offering that for their physicians, that they all, can go and get this extra training because of, they see in not only training residents, but communicating with the community at large. So I think that, this is so specific to podiatric medicine and surgery, the way that we wrote our law, that, once again, I really hope it gets eliminated. But I just thought I'd bring it to the board and just
I think
see if,
they've been doing your work to, when you were president, to get this addressed and get us our law in front. So thank goodness we do have a solution to that. This problem is not going to be revisited to us if our law passes, because like you said, it's kind of dumb. But luckily we already have a fix in place moving forward, but that does leave us stuck with this one guy, or excuse me, this one licensee.
Yeah.
May I suggest a course of action, perhaps? I'm looking at our section 2496, and I believe we're stuck on code G, successful completion within the past 5 years of an extended course of study approved by the board. So if I'm reading this correctly, there's an extended course of study approved by the board. However, we don't have any attachment as to delineating or any appendix as to what an extended course of study is defined as. And I'm reviewing this licensee's paperwork and documentation submitted, including attachment E, including Kent State's public health studies. I've looked through the transcripts and the curriculum, and Kent State happens to be a college of podiatric medicine as well. If I could suggest, with the approval of the board, that in addition to this documentation that this licensee is presenting to us, makes a highlight of section G and submits to us that the extended course that this person has taken, submitting to us a letter from Kent State University attesting that this is beneficial to the podiatric medicine. I think I will be inclined to consider this as a definition of section G under extended course of study approved by the board, and submit that to the board for our approval.
That's a very good idea because I agree with you. I think that I think we look kind of foolish in a way as a board looking at here's a guy who's doing a master's in public health from Kent State, which what you said is one of our own podiatric medical colleges there. So yeah, I think that would be a really great idea. So I don't know if we need a motion to do that or how we do that, but or if we just have to clearly ask him for this. Once we receive it, we can look at it again and vote on it as a board, whether to approve it or not.
His license expires on February 28th. So it's the end of this month. So he would need to answer those, they would need to answer the questions on the renewal of, you know, do you meet these requirements, yes or no? I advise that since it's so close to the expiration date, and we weren't sure if this was going to get approved or not, I asked that they submitted a waiver application just in case it doesn't get approved, and that would give an extra 2 years to meet one of the other requirements. But if it was approved, then I wouldn't issue the waiver. So if we wait until the next board meeting, it's going to be past their expiration date.
Yeah, it's going to be
That sounds
June.
like the right mechanism. Yeah, that sounds like a right, and I can help you draft a letter specifically asking to define to us from Kent State University as to the definition of this licensee of the extended course of study approved and how that relates to podiatric medicine. I believe it shouldn't be hard to obtain that letter, but I think if we have that documentation, I think we'll fulfill Code G under Section 2496, and we'll be following our current law.
Great. Thank you.
Dr. Lee, this is Brittany. My only suggestion there would to also include the reg section 1399.675, which includes the parameters that the courses are supposed to follow.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then I believe somebody said this licensee hasn't turned in the 50 hours, so I would request for that as well, just in case. Because if the licensee doesn't have the 50 hours, then this whole thing is a moot point.
Just for clarity and to be clear about what the board as a whole wants to do, I would recommend a motion, which I'm happy to help craft.
Yes, I was getting there. Great discussion on this one. There's a lot of gray area, right, in section 2496G. It's very gray. So I would recommend a motion here to approve, or however you want to investigate this a little further. But I think a motion is probably a clarity here.
Excellent. Dr. Lee, could I ask, since this idea, I think you gave us the most clarity on how to proceed, both best for the licensee and best for our meeting our duties, meeting our regulations, would you be so kind as to word the motion that you'd like us to, that you're suggesting?
Certainly. The motion statement will read as follows. The board would like to ask the licensee to comply with Section 2496, Section G, as well as continuing competency 1399.669 by submitting documentation on the 50 hours of approved continuing education and a letter to document extended course of study in relevance to podiatric medicine by the university that awarded the Master's of Public Health, which is Kent State University.
Do we have a second on this motion that Dr. Lee has made?
I second the motion.
This is Maria.
So I hear Dr. Manzi second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Kathleen? Or is there something else?
Open it up for public.
Public comment. Thank you. I'm never going to put a Post-it note in front of me.
This is the moderator. The Q&A is now open. The instructions are on the screen will be on the screen for your reference. If you would like to participate, click on the question mark inside of the square, typically bottom right corner of your WebEx screen, and type comment in the text field. Make sure it goes to all panelists. You can also raise your hand by hovering your cursor or mouse over your name in the participant panel and clicking on the outline of a hand. No requests have been submitted. Would you like me to close the Q&A feature?
Please.
Thank you.
And let's do a roll call and vote.
Okay, I'd like to ask for clarification on Dr. Lee with your motion. I couldn't write it down when you started to get to Kent State, so I will reflect it properly in the minutes. But the motion we're going to vote on, could you reiterate it for everybody so that we are voting on your motion correctly and not my summary, which may be. I just want to say something too, Brittany. At the beginning of his motion, he said the board would like to ask the licensee. I don't know if that's firm enough. I mean, just please tell me what the motion is exactly, and then I'll call the roll.
We can change the introduction. My motion was to ask the licensee about the 50 hours of approved continuing medical education and a letter stating, attesting, and documenting that the Masters of Public Health obtained at Kent State University will be relevant to podiatric medicine.
Okay. Does everybody understand that motion?
Sorry, Dr. Lee, I think you omitted some of the helpful information from the prior motion. I would also, if you don't mind, supplement that.
If you could repeat that, what I said, I was just trying to give her a summary. Yeah. I don't have this written down. You know that, right?
Yeah, let's try. I would suggest a motion to ask the licensee to comply with Business and Professions Code Section 2496, Subdivision G, and CCR 1399.679 by submitting documentation of satisfaction of the 50 hours of continuing medical education, as well as a letter from the university that awarded his master's in public health, demonstrating that the degree he received satisfies the aforementioned PMP code section and regulation.
Instead of degree, do we want to call it course of study?
Yes, that's great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sound about right, Dr. Lee?
Sounds good.
Is that 675, not 679, Brittany, or is it? Did you?
Let me bring it up just to make sure. Yeah, you're right. 675. Thank you.
Okay. So is everybody ready for a vote?
I have a question. So for the renewal purposes, am I advising them to say, yes, I met the requirements to renew? Or am I issuing a waiver?
Providing them this information. I don't think you're advising them.
I'm sorry, one more time. I didn't hear the first part.
If this motion passes, I don't think you're advising him of anything except that this is what the board is requesting.
Right, but I think you have to give him that leeway for us to, because like you said, his license is going to expire. So yes, you should issue a
waiver.
A waiver, yes.
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 Okay, and then by the next board meeting, we'll review the documents.
Yes, please.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So let's move on with this licensing.
Wait a second, so we have to vote on the motion. The motion hasn't been voted on yet. I think we have clarity on what the motion is. We just need Kathy to call and take our vote.
Okay. Dr. McAloon?
I vote yes.
Dr. Lee?
Yes.
Ms. Cadenas?
Yes.
Dr. Manzi?
Yes.
Ms. Trulio Elliott?
Yes.
Ms. Chang?
I vote yes.
All righty, it passes unanimous.
Everyone, thank you so much for your thoughtful input on how to best handle this issue. I'm glad we spent some time on it to make sure that we did a good job. Thank you very much for your everyone contributing to this outcome. I appreciate it. So
Other than that, we just have the 3-month timeline, and that concludes the licensing report.
very good. Does anyone have any questions about the timeline?
Dr. McAloon, just to ensure we have public comment for this this section outside of the request pertaining to the extended courses study, I'd offer another public comment for the licensing program update, just to be safe.
Fantastic. Dr. Manji, before I do that, do you have any other comments from your committee?
No, except, thanks for looking at this, and, hopefully we're going to solve a lot of these issues in the future once our bill gets passed. But thank you.
Thank you for that. Are there any public comments then before we leave the licensing program committee update?
This is the moderator. The Q&A is open. Instructions are on the screen. If you would like to participate, click that question mark, type comment, send it to all panelists. No requests have been submitted. Would you like me to close the Q&A feature?
Yes, please.
Thank you.
All right, so our next agenda item is enforcement. Thank you, everybody, for all the input on that. It's a very difficult one. So hopefully we can solve the issue in the future here. So yeah, so we got Maria Cadenas, who is the chair of enforcement.
Thank you, Brian, and thank you, everybody. I'm going to pass it to Bethany to provide a summary of the enforcement statistics and information for discussion. Bethany?
Good morning. So I'm covering data from July 1st through December 31st of 2022. So this is 2 quarters this time, since it's been a little while since we had a board meeting. There's a few additional attachments due to the additional data. Starting with the statistics, we have the complaint data. So attachment A, there's 2 pages for quarter 1 and quarter 2. The first quarter, we received 30 complaints, and the average days to close a case was 5 days within the target. And during quarter 2, we had 28 complaints received, and average days to close or assign a case was 12 days. This is higher than usual, and I imagine there was a staff backlog in the complaint area, and we're probably back to normal now. So I don't think this will affect our data too much. Before I move on, I'm going to go ahead and ask if there's any questions at each segment. Do we have any questions on the complaint data to start? Okay, moving on to investigations. For the first quarter, we had 28 desk investigations assigned and 38 desk investigations completed. Processing time averaged 54 days. We had 4 field investigations assigned and 10 completed field investigations, and the field investigations averaged 308 days to complete. The case investigation times, which is both desk and field, had an average of 198 days to complete those. Out of the complaints closed, we had 55% closed within 90 days, 24% between 91 days and 1 year, and 21% took longer than a year to close. Moving on to quarter 2, we had 31 desk investigations assigned, 27 desk investigations completed, and average processing time was 50 days. There were 2 field investigations assigned and 2 completed field investigations. The completed field investigations averaged 426 days to complete. And then the average time for both desk and field investigations was fairly low at only 58 days due to only having the 2 field investigations. Of the complaints closed, we had 87% closed within 90 days, 13% between 91 days and 1 year, and none of those, well, that doesn't actually make sense here. 0%. I would say we had 2 that took longer. I'm going to have to review this data. I think we have a little issue in the quarter 2 investigation data. So I will have to get back to everyone on that. Looks like there might be a little off number. And I pulled this data from the Breeze reports. So I'll have to contact DCA for that and see what the issue is, because it's not matching 426 days. It's definitely longer than 1 year. So sorry about that. Moving on though, as far as investigation costs, I mentioned this earlier, we have had costs increase. So this is a little bit of overlap with budgets. And in order to try to alleviate those costs, DCA, or Division Investigation, created a new non-sworn unit to cut down costs. However, in December of 2022, DFI assigned their rates for the fiscal year that began July 1st, and there was quite an increase in those rates for both sworn investigators and for the non-sworn. I have received so far billing statements for the first 4 months of the fiscal year, July through October, and it looks like we're at $31,557.50 for 185.75 sworn staff hours and $20,559 for 155.75 non-sworn staff hours. This was concerning to me at first, but after looking at the budget line item, it looks like we still have wiggle room and budgets doesn't seem super concerned. So these increased costs have, I guess, have been factored in. We'll continue to watch these rates though, and of course, let you know if we see any issues. Are there any questions on investigation data? Aside from my error, or the report error. I think that error actually came from Breeze. All right, moving on to the disciplinary data then. We have first quarter, we had 5 cases initiated in the first quarter and 3 final orders that went into effect. These cases averaged 1,619 days to complete. We did have the most aged case with the board complete in September for that first quarter. The average days was not as high as I expected it to be based on that case, but so we're not looking too bad, and we're just happy to have that case closed and finalized. The second quarter, we had 1 new case initiated and 1 final order went into effect. This case took 743 days to complete. We've had no citations issued for 2022. There were 2 probationers added during the first 2 quarters, and there were 10 active licensees on probation at the end of quarter 2. Do we have any questions on the disciplinary data? Okay, well then we have attachment D, which is the fiscal year to date total. So that includes both quarters and has information for the complaints, investigation, and discipline. So for the first 2 quarters, we've had 59 complaints received, and we've had 57 investigations assigned with an average of 243 days to complete. 6 new disciplinary cases were initiated. 4 final orders were issued. Again, no citations. And that is it for the first 2 quarter data. Any questions on the fiscal year to date totals? All right, and then we have attachment E, which is information received from the Attorney General. This is information dated January 12th, 2023. And I have that 1 most age case listed there. It will fall off on the next report, but I just wanted to include it for the board's review. And we currently have 14 plus active cases pending completion with the Attorney General. There may be some cases that have been referred. They're not yet showing on this report because they have not yet been fully accepted. The DCA performance measures. This is data that DCA compiles for all of the boards that shows the same statistical information that I have just provided through this report, and it allows individuals to do more thorough searches and do comparisons to prior year data or other board data. And the websites where you can find that information is there in the report. Currently, it's posted through the third quarter of fiscal year 21-22, so we have more current data. That concludes the statistical portion of my report. Do we have any questions on the statistics? Okay, segment 2, the probation program update. We've received between July 1st and December 31st, 2022, $6,135.87 in cost recovery payments and $5,555.87 in probation monitoring payments for a total of $11,691.74 for cost recovery. Annual probation billing invoices were mailed in January with a due date of April 1st, 2023, and those payments have started to come in. And if there's no questions on the probation program, the final update is the consultant expert program update. I am happy to announce that we are moving forward with our consultant training scheduled for March 17th, 2023. It will be our first WebEx training, so it will be a similar format to what we're using here. It'll be the first training held in this way, so hopefully that goes smoothly. We have representatives from the Division of Investigation and the Attorney General's office that will be helping facilitate the training. And although the focus is on consultants, we are also inviting expert reviewers, and board members are also able to call and listen in. We have not received any new applications at this time for consultant or expert, but we encourage board members or any other consultants and experts to get the word out. We're always looking for additional help there. So that concludes my report.
How many people have registered for this consultant training on the 17th?
I did get that update a couple weeks ago. I'm going to ask for another update and send out another notice. So far, we've got, I think, about 12 that have verified participation. I would like to get a few more. So I was going to send out tomorrow another invite and especially emphasize we'd like the consultants participating. The other thing is I believe we're going to be holding a training at the Western this year. So that will give another opportunity. Since it's been a while since we've had a training, I think 2 this year would be a good idea. And then perhaps alternate every other year between an in-person training and a online training, or hold online trainings as needed. That way we have everybody up to date with their required training.
That sounds great. Thank you.
Thank you, Bethany, for that review, and then for the, quite frankly, the monitoring of our impact on our budget through the look at enforcement. And I echo the call for passing the word out in terms of applications for the consultant and expert program for those on the board. If there's no other comments or questions, we're done with the presentation.
Thank you, Bethany.
Okay, so let's open this item up. B, enforcement program for public comment.
This is the moderator. The Q&A is now open. The instructions are on the screen for your reference. If you would like to participate, click on the question mark, type comment, and send it to all panelists. No requests have been submitted. Would you like me to close the Q&A feature? And this is the moderator. Can I get some confirmation that my microphone is working?
Yes, you can go ahead and close it.
Awesome, thank you.
And Brittany, let me run this by you. Do we need to take a vote? Or are we going to take a vote of all the executive officers' reports at the end?
No, I consider the reports to be informational unless there's particular action that the board needs to take on any of the items. I don't think you need a vote.
Okay, we'll just do it at the end to accept all the reports. Okay. Let's see what's next here. Legislation program. I don't see it on the screen here. All right. Here we are. Legislation. Lots of stuff going on here. Dr. Lee, the chair.
Hi, everyone. We had a meeting for our legislative committee. Kathleen, could you help us with the summaries of the items that we discussed?
Thank you, Dr. Lee. I'd like to present the legislative report for 2003. This summarizes basically just two bills we have this year, although one is much more important and relevant to our earlier discussions in this board meeting regarding the continuing competence. The other bill is a Medi-Cal bill, which every year we see this, and rarely have we seen any final legislation on podiatric and Medi-Cal. But we'll have to wait till later in the year on that one. I'll get to that in a second. The most important thing in this report is that on 3/12/21, you all voted that a DPN should be able to renew their license in California by completing 50 CMEs, remaining free from disciplinary actions, and paying their fees. So we've begun the process of complying with that board mandate. And if you look at our attachments to this report, if you look at attachment A, there's really a lot there. I mean, the print's a little small, and we used the asterisks on the bottom to give the history to keep it to one page. But once this was created and Brian gave me the outline, you know, it's already been taken. It is a bill now. Now, we didn't notice the bill because there was no bill at the time I created this report. But AB 826 is basically the next attachment. It is attachment B, and 2496 should be completely, as to A through H, removed for the reasons in this short page. And I would just like to go over it and ask for anyone, public comment, DPM comment, whatever, because you know, we used all the information we have at the board records and also our sunset and other public documents. But basically, what we are saying is that back in the day, and I should just probably read, it's a very good short summary, but back in 25 years ago, some DPMs were surgically graduating from podiatric school, were surgically prepared, and the ones prior to 83 were not considered graduates with that preparation and had to prove themselves through a certification process to become surgery compliant. So what we're saying here is, back 25 years ago, when there were these two types of licensees in our board, it was an executive and board decision to create additional requirements. And those additional requirements are unique among all the boards here in California, healthcare boards. It's unique among the entire country in podiatric medical schools. And we've already heard from the Federation. We heard from Russell Stoner, the executive director. Anyone who's interested, if you look at the bottom of this page, you could link to the YouTube discussion, which outlined it very specifically that applicants to California might not feel that it's fair that this state requires so much more than every other state. And it could be seen as a restraint on trade. So this document is trying to outline how we can solve that problem by taking out A through H, being compliant with the rest of the country, the rest of the boards in California, and to get rid of this additional requirement that we've never seen it proven in any scientific or statistical, clinical, anything that this is that this makes a difference. We know that the standards changed in the last 25 years, that podiatrists and doctors of podiatric medicine are full surgeons below the ankle, and that they go through everything that every other profession goes through. I think other professionals understand this when you explain that this is the equivalent of taking your original exams to practice your art. Your license originally is given to you with such, a burdensome amount of papers and testing and things like that. We've imposed that on our board members, on our licensees voluntarily. We asked for it, in other words, 25 years ago, to give us, no one put this on us. So we're saying now it's irrelevant. We don't have graduates at this point that don't have the certification. Now, maybe there's one or two older graduates from prior to 83, but we don't feel that that's enough to make a difference in our legislation, or in our regulations. So the board, I'm sure, still is wanting its March of 21 meeting to be implemented, their requirement that we get rid of this. Does anyone have any questions about attachment A? Any comments about what I'm trying to say here? Or maybe Brian should really step in because he's been working with the legislators. This would not remove the beginning of 2496, just the sub A through H. And I think that's kind of clear too. If anyone is in the public area is confused about this complicated issue, please go to that meeting discussion and back in March of 21, and you will hear all sides. It's a full discussion about why this is not relevant anymore, and it is burdensome, capricious, arbitrary, and could be looked at as a restraint of trade, which we all know recently all boards, public boards, are going the other direction of not limiting everyone who wants to be practicing with a license from California. Any comments?
So I'll chime in a little bit. In March of 21, we had Russell Stoner, the executive over at the Federation, queued up by Judy Manzi. He gave a presentation that California has the steepest and most complicated renewal process in the nation. I wanted to drop a bill back in 21, but unfortunately, I was told no because they were still dealing with the pandemic of COVID-19, and they didn't want any other introductions of any other bills rather than emergency bills. And we got done with our sunset, so I couldn't stick it in there. And so here we are in 2023. Phil Chin, Assembly Member Phil Chin, took a look at it and he ran with it. And so that bill was introduced just about a week and a half ago. So it's AB 826. Our go time, or my go time, will be sometime, I would imagine, first reading late March, early April. And then we'll see how the process goes. Fingers crossed. And I think this is a good step for the board. And we just got to remember, this is only for renewals, not initials applications. So I think Dr. Lee, you can chime in as well, because I know we've had a lot of discussion, and Judy, you can chime in as well, because we had a lot of discussion about this.
Hi, Dr. Lee. I agree with everything you said. I think a lot of the sections that we discuss within the 2496, as per our previous discussion as well, have been antiquated and don't apply to today's standards, considering how residencies and fellowships and so many more improved educational pathways have taken place. So I definitely agree with the action here.
Okay. And I call this Bill Judy because she was the driving force behind it. So, Judy.
Well, thank you. I just think that once again, we don't have to. We've already discussed this situation, and I just remember the meeting we had with the medical board prior to our last sunset, and they were like, "Oh, we're cleaning up all our language and we're getting rid of this and that." And I think that this is just another proof of that. That we have to look at these things as time goes on. And once again, it's antiquated, and I'm hopeful it's going to pass without a problem. And I want to thank everyone for all the energy they put into it. Thanks.
All right. Carolyn.
Yes, I don't have any further comments on our bill. It's very exciting.
All right. Let's go to our public members. Darlene, do you have input?
Do not. This has been, I think, hashed out this last year. And again, I'm very proud of the work that went into this. So thank you, everybody.
Yeah. And Sammy, do you have any input? I know this is all kind of new to you. You're probably just, your brain's probably just being rattled right now.
Yeah, we discussed about this earlier. I agree with Dr. Lee.
Okay. Anybody else am I missing? So I will keep the board posted as the process goes. I might need some help at the Capitol, and I think I talked to Dr. Lee. He's here in Sacramento, and so he might be available rather than pulling Judy or somebody else, Bay Area and all the whole 9 yards. Because usually the discussions at the Capitol only last for maybe 15 minutes, but they might have some questions that a DPM could address better than I can. But I'll do my best on this one. Right now, there's no opposition that we know of, and it's going to put you in alignment, the same alignment as MDs and DOs for your renewal.
Right.
Yes, Brian, I'll be happy to help.
Right. I'd appreciate if Daniel would be there because I think, you never know what's going to come up, and he's in the neighborhood, and I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Fingers crossed. We'll see what happens. That's all I got.
Fantastic. Is there any anything else for the legislative report?
I think we have the reg update.
Wait 1 second. We also have AB 365, which I just want to say it is a growing, I think 1 in 7 adults, the bill says now, where I think just a few years ago it was 1 in 10. So in California here, they have diabetes, and 365 is to help them with glucose monitors and things like that. So we'll keep you posted. That's going to change a lot. By June, it'll be more firm at our next meeting. But okay, so that's done with ledge. If anyone has any comment on that diabetes bill, if not, we can go on to reg. Okay, we have one regulation that's pending, and it has to do with enforcement. And we're going to be changing attorneys at DCA, so there may be a little bit more of a delay. but basically we've been dealing with the same issue for quite some time. We have a very large document that will be incorporated by reference into our regulations and into our statute of how we handle, it's not just drug abusing or substance abusing licensees. It's really all enforcement actions with licensees. I don't know if Brian or Bethany would like to weigh in on this, but we're getting closer. We've been dealing with this for a few years. There's been reviews, and we need some more reviews from the DAG and the ones that actually do the enforcement. And I just want to tell you it's ongoing, and we're working on it. We have documents going back and forth between ourselves and legislation, and we'll keep you posted. We hope by June we can present you with the full bill, the full reg. And that is it for the legislative report.
Thank you, Kathleen. Great work.
Thank you.
And let's go ahead and open this legislative item C for public comment, if there's any public comment out there.
This is the moderator. The Q&A is open. The instructions are will be on the screen for your reference. If you would like to participate, click on the question mark inside of the square, type comment, and send it to all panelists. No requests have been submitted. Would you like me to close the Q&A feature?
Yes, please.
Thank you.
Okay, now we have public education update. And it's Darlene. Darlene, you're the chair. You can take it from here, and I bet you're going to punt it to Kathy.
Exactly. Thank you, everybody. This is the Public Education Program Report, and I am going to go ahead and ask Kathleen Cooper to go ahead and present this item. Thank you.
Thank you, Darlene. There are two topics in this report, and first one is footnotes, and the second one is our social media accounts. So Footnotes is an annual newsletter now, and thank you for the contributions made, Dr. Manzi, Dr. Lee, and others. We've submitted it to DCA, and they are organizing an 8-page newsletter, as we've always had, follows the same outline. It goes on our website permanently, and it kind of documents where we're at in 2023. So there's a sub area there with enforcement and licensing, and we've updated as to our bill last year, 1704, which has to do with radiology in the podiatric office. And I think it's going to be a really great newsletter. As soon as it is firmly approved, we will be sending it out to you. It'll be on our website. We do not publish the kind of hard copies, the numbers that we used to. So I just want to mention that. I don't see if anyone has any other thoughts, but I don't see any reason why we should incur costs for 200 hard copies when actually everything is electronic in terms of any feedback that we get, or people who hear a message in the newsletter and then get back to us. So if anybody has anything about printing the lesser amount, please let me know. But when we do go to print, we will not be printing the old-fashioned 200 or more. It's just so accessible right from our website. If you go onto the front page, you'll see a newsletter section, and you could look at our last few years, easily. Does anybody have any comments about footnotes or publication deadlines or anything like that? Okay. Second part is our social media accounts. The content that we get for our website is driven a lot by DCA, cures, things like that, the governor's office when it came to all the COVID things. But our Facebook and Twitter accounts are fairly, we're not making posts every day for sure. And when something is important, we do put it up. But mostly we have a listserv as well to reach our members, and we're always trying to improve that. So they get the information directly if they sign up for it. And it's always available on the website. But if anyone sees, I just want to stress this at this point, if anyone sees anything on the website that's dated, and I want to thank those who have come to me with older things on the website that didn't come up in any of my searches, you know, there's avenues in that website that are, you know, you go down that licensing or enforcement area, you can get in some detail, and then there could be an incorrect reference to an old document. We would all appreciate very much if anyone's just playing around with the website to let us know if you think something might need to be updated. But we do update with every report, and I feel like it is updated, but I'm always looking for you know, more scrutiny in that area. Anybody have any comments about our web pages or the content? We'd love to hear about it. But it is active, and we're in compliance with everything DCA asks of us. And if anyone has any comments, please let us know. But otherwise, nothing urgent or worrisome about our public education efforts. I think they're going pretty well. Any comments?
Since we are talking about the website, I did notice that the board members haven't been updated in a while.
Really?
And on
okay, I know Samantha.
Well, yeah, on my, and I'm trying to refresh it, but yeah, it still looks like some of the it has Dr. Manzi as president still, and me as vice president.
Okay.
But Samantha is updated on there. So just a few little ones.
Appreciate that very much. That's so easy to change too. Thank you.
Yes.
Just so you all know,
no other input.
I just want to mention when a change is requested, it takes a week or so, a week to 10 days, just so you all know. We need the IT people to help us in that area.
Understood. And if there's any comments from the board members, but I want to thank you, Kathleen, for all your work. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, I don't hear any more comments. Can we open this up for public comment?
This is the moderator. The Q&A is now open. The instructions are on the screen for your reference. Click on the question mark, type comment, and send it to all panelists. No request. Would you like me to close the Q&A feature?
Thank you.
All right, the last item is executive management update and possible action. Dr. McAloon, Carolyn.
I'm up. Well, I have it pretty easy. Thank you, everyone. So in your board materials, the next page is our committee appointments for 2023. And what we typically try to do is get 2 members on each committee and have each member be assigned to 2 committees. Right now, with the appointments we have listed, Dr. Manzi is left all alone by herself on licensing. Ms. Cadenas, Maria, would you be open to also serving on licensing to give Dr. Manzi?
Yeah, that'd be fine.
Yeah. Any concerns with that? You're okay with that?
Yes, I'm okay with.
Thank you. I appreciate that very much.
Okay, so what needs to happen here is we have a nominee for for the licensing, and I think it's a good fit because unfortunately, and I'm going to try to do everything in my magic to make Judy stay, but I can't. Her last meeting will be June 1st because that's the day of her term out. So if we can get somebody into the licensing committee to start understanding the mess there and all the review that needs to happen, Maria, I think you'd be a perfect fit. So committee appointments are appointed by the president, and Dr. McAloon's the president. So a motion needs to be made by Dr. McAloon and a vote needs to be taken, and we'll fill that position.
Brian, real
Fantastic.
quick, also, I'm sorry, since we do have a new member, can we consider adding a new member to one of the committees?
Yeah, we got Sammy in
legislative.
I see.
Yeah,
I jumped the gun.
legislative.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
Perfect.
But yeah, and I
Brian,
think
it's
that
my understanding that the president appoints. We don't need to take a vote as long as Carolyn is appointing.
yeah,
That's my understanding.
yeah. Is that right, Brittany?
Yeah, Member Cadenas is correct. You can do it if you want, but it's not required since it is a board president function to appoint to the committees.
Okay. So we don't need to take a vote. Maria, do you accept that position in licensing?
I did, Brian. I just want to note that my reappointment is still as well pending. So just to be mindful of that process.
Right, exactly. I'm working on it and trying to get Dr. Zaff's position filled, and then I got to get somebody in Judy's position come June 1st. But those are all governor appointed positions, and it just seems to go very slow. So we're working on it.
Then, of course, when our next board meeting, I'm happy to revisit the committee appointments. If by changing members we need to move some people around, we can always revisit that in our next meeting if necessary. I appreciate you, Maria, doing the licensing at least from now until then, and we can see what happens after that. Maria, I had another favor to ask you. We have a brand new board member, Ms. Chang, and I remember, and I'm sure Dr. Lee does too, joining the board at the beginning, trying to understand what we're talking about, especially when some items have history. And I think especially when someone's not a licensee of the board, it's even more information that's not a part of their wheelhouse already. At least being by podiatrists, we're familiar with some of the concepts, even not sending the board, but as a public member, there can be a lot of nuances to pick up, like what did even some of the abbreviations mean or things like that. So I was thinking that it'd be nice for Ms. Chang to have a mentor, someone she can ask, whisper or send a text or ask you, what is this? Or, can you tell me a little bit more about background with this? So I was wondering if you would be willing this year to serve as a mentor to our new board member, so that if she had any questions about that sort of thing, that that you might be able to be a resource for her, that she to be able to touch base with you.
I'm more than happy to be available, though I would also, Darlene, not to tap you too much, but Darlene's been on the board longer than me and might have also plenty of insight and guidance to provide another community representative of the board. But yes, by all means, I'm available.
Fantastic. I appreciate that, and I know all of us are here to support each other. Sammy, I'm really proud to have you join this board. I think you'll have noticed already, and just in this board meeting, what a great group we have of committed licensees and public members to support this board, and very collaborative and work together very well. Very respectful. Everyone's voices are heard. This board is really important, and we all make sure we get a chance to, we're all here for a reason. Certainly as we get more experience on the board, we have more to say, but everybody's here with a purpose to say and to contribute. And so I'm looking forward to, as you learn more about how our licensing board works to have more and more input. And I want to make sure that you have a chance to reach out to the other board members for any questions so that you can be a full participating member in no time.
Sounds very good. Thank you so much. Thank you. I'll for sure
You're
contact
welcome.
her soon.
Yeah, you got it. Wonderful. Okay, so that's for committee appointments. I think that's good for now. We'll make that one change. And our next big excitement in just a couple of weeks is our strategic plan meeting. This I have not yet been on the board long enough to have done this before. So Brian, can you discuss the strategic plan working group meeting for us?
Absolutely. And lucky
Thank
for
you.
us, our host, Elizabeth Cornell, is going to be hosting that meeting as well. And she did a lot of work on the environmental scans that the surveys that you guys filled out. So what I included here is just a snapshot of the last strategic plan that we did. So you can just cruise through that and kind of get the gist of what is going to happen. As we get closer to this meeting, I think Elizabeth sent me over the environmental scans. Those will come over to you. We're going to start at 10 o'clock, and it's kind of just a working meeting. However, this meeting is going to be posted for Bagley King purposes. So we're going to have to run it like a board meeting. So I just want to keep that in queue for everybody. But it's going to be an open discussion with all the board members and staff of, what we're looking at for, our next strategic plan. Things that I would put in mind is what is the new normal? Because the pandemic really, I think they used to call it a paradigm shift, but now I'm calling it a universal shift, because people are telecommuting, things are just changed quite a bit. So if we have that in our back of our minds when we're setting up a strategic plan, we have to look at it and see if all the tasks that are thrown out there are accomplishable. So does anybody have any comments on what's going to come up here on March 10th?
I don't have a comment, Brian, but just clarification. And it's I forgive me. I know it's probably been sent, but are we doing this via WebEx or are we doing this in person?
This is WebEx. I'm going to do WebEx. I'll do
Okay.
WebEx every time
Thank
I
you.
can. Yeah.
No, that's fine. That works for me.
Okay. Perfect. Anybody else have any questions? The materials, I think Brittany has the agenda. She's going to review it and approve through her legal staff. And we'll post it, and then the materials will come out, and we'll go from there. Elizabeth, do you have any comments?
I will be distributing that or sending the environmental scan and objectives workbook. It's basically just some worksheets that I'll send Brian, who will then distribute it to all of the board members. And highly encourage you all to review the environmental scan and start brainstorming any ideas, any issues or areas where you see need improvement. And there's also, it's an easy to use worksheet. So once you identify the issue or the area for improvement, you can also identify solutions that you have in mind. So all of that will tremendously help the strategic planning session and making it more effective. So thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. All
Just
right.
a quick comment,
Yeah.
Brian, for the strategic plan, just as we did for the budget and we were able to put it up on the screen, will we be able to do that with parts of the strategic session?
Yeah, we can probably make that happen. Right. And we'll probably go cameras on so everybody gets to see everybody's faces.
Perfect. Thank
So we can do that. Yeah. All right. Let's go ahead and open this up for public comment, and I'll pass it over to Dr. McAloon.
Thank you. Can we open up a public comment for the executive management update?
Yes, this is the moderator. The Q&A is now open. The instructions are on the screen for your reference. If you would like to participate, click that question mark inside of the square, type comment, and send it to all panelists. No requests have been submitted. Would you like me to close the Q&A?
Yes, please.
Thank you.
All right. And then
And one other thing, Brittany, help me out here. Should we take a vote to accept the executive officer's reports, A through E?
Yes, you can do that.
Okay, let's go ahead and take a vote to approve executive officer's reports. Carolyn, go ahead.
Oh, you'll want to someone to make the motion.
Yes, make
Yes.
motion.
Can I make the motion, or do I need another board member to make the motion?
You can make the motion, Dr. McAloon.
Okay, I make a motion that the board accept the reports, the executive officer's reports, including the committee reports.
Can I just make a friendly amendment that it includes the changes noted by the staff?
Fine by me. Can I have a second?
Who was the second?
Dr. Manzi seconds.
Sorry, this is Maria. I second oh, whoever. That's fine.
Was it Judy or Maria?
This is Maria. I was offering a second, but I'm happy if Judy wants to be the second.
It's fine. Someone just second it.
Yeah. All right, Dr. McAloon, here you go.
All right,
Your
Kathy,
conclusion.
can you? Okay, so
Oh, yes. Take a vote.
you're the-
Yes.
McAloon is the movement and Cadenas is the second, right? Okay.
Correct.
All right, Dr. McAloon.
Yes.
Dr. Lee,
Yes.
Ms. Cadenas,
Yes.
Dr. Manzi,
Yes.
Ms. Trulio Elliott,
Yes.
Ms. Chang.
Yes.
All right, so the motion passes unanimously.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Our next, moving on to our future agenda items. Does anyone have an item that they want to bring forward to our next meeting? While we were talking today, I did write one thing down. I don't know if we want to include it as an agenda item or not, but we had a brief discussion today about student recruitment, in the sense that the number of licensees it's a trickle-down effect, right? Less students equals less graduates, leads less practitioners. So the trend, as Brian was sharing with us, is that we're having fewer licensees. Brian, is that accurate of what you were sharing with us?
Yeah, I think it's a national trend as well.
It certainly is.
I think Judy can chime in on that because she's part of the federation. But I think when I talked to Russell Stoner, he says, yeah, the trend is definitely it's lowering. And Judy, you have a comment?
Yeah, they had less well, the thing is, they've opened more more podiatry schools, like they just opened another one in Texas. But all of the classes are smaller in all of the schools. And even the schools that traditionally had large classes, like Temple and Kent State and our California ones, are all you know, very, very low with applicants. So that is that's true. But as far as recruitment goes, I don't know what we can do about recruitment. If anyone has any ideas, maybe that's something to talk about. But I will say this, that the other thing that's going on right now, which is kind of on more of a national level, is this path to parity, which is a whole nother discussion, but it does address in a way, because I'm on a subcommittee that talks about this. It addresses this idea that podiatric medicine, you know, even though you have a lot of privilege and a lot of your scope of practice is large, it still has challenges in a broader term, more so than an MD degree does. And they're looking at, you know, maybe a student would be say, listen, why should I do this where this limits me to you know, limits me practice-wise, when I could get an MD degree and, you know, and have a little more option. So they're talking, there's a lot of issues that are surrounding that as well.
Judy, what do you think? Just a thought occurred to me. You know, we have student recruitment, but path to parity, like you said, is, you know, it's all encompassing. And, you know, this is a California board. So we might, if our board is interested, we have the author of the Pathway to Parity person in California, John Holtman. So if the board wanted to hear about Pathway to Parity or student recruitment in our state, we could invite Dr. Holtman to give a presentation to our next board meeting if, because I get to hear it all the time. So if the board was interested in that, we could certainly ask him if he would be willing to do that, if that's information that the board would like to hear about.
Yes.
I would appreciate that.
Yeah, I don't think it's a bad idea. I mean, you know, and the thing which is interesting, because I guess the committee I'm on now, this Path to Parity committee that I'm on, that it's through APMA, right? You know, there's so many different perspectives of what parity looks like. And so that further, you know, makes things really interesting when you're talking about what Holtman talks about and what the rest of the country sees it as. So it would be interesting. I think he should definitely address the board, especially for our lay members that maybe don't really understand what this is all about.
Judy
Brian,
and the board, if I could chime in and add, if we have our CPMA EO present or be in one of our meetings as to discussing recruitment and student enrollment status, I think it will be important to have perhaps representation from the schools because they are directly in the trenches dealing with this. Perhaps the deans of each of the schools to be present and provide their perspective on how the recruitment enrollments are looking, their projections and their paths, and anything that we can glean and learn from that. So that'll be very helpful to the board.
so I know both the deans. I know Eric at CSPM, and I know John down at Western. So certainly I'd be happy to ask them and invite them to, as well as John Holtman, the ED. If the board would like to have those individuals speak to our group on these issues, I'd be happy to invite them to give those report to the board if they're interested in doing so.
Yeah, the only reason I say that is because they are pretty much the main stakeholders in this issue of recruitment and student enrollees. And I would like to see some form of panel discussion amongst themselves. We're not strictly as a board in charge of any enrollments and recruitments. Therefore, those who are the stakeholders specifically for student enrollment and recruitment are them. So it would be nice to have a panel discussion or presentation by them.
And I see this, and make sure the vision is the same for you guys, mostly as educational for us. You know, not really action items, but just so that we have a sense of where the direction of the profession is going in our state to help us make our decisions, based on, we're going to have less licensees. Because, for example, less licensees means our licensing fees goes up. There's going to be a number where that balance is going to, right, that there's still, if our numbers go down, our fees go up, it's going to be cost prohibitive at one point to continue to exist as a board separately. For example, that might be an issue. So for us to know.
That's exactly the issue, Carolyn. I agree with you. That's the exact issue.
I said it out loud. Yeah.
And not only that, that's how they talk about it at the level of the federation, because, their budget also is determined by how many licensees are in the country. And, just by being on the federation board and seeing the budgets of many of these states and how they have to operate because they only have maybe 60 licensees in the state, how do you run a board, with that kind of number? So you're absolutely right. It's kind of, it is important to our board to know what's going on with this.
So that's how I
want to add to. I agree that this needs to be reported, especially in a formal meeting, even though it's not actionable. This is a formal meeting, and we'll have formal records, and we can always, if anytime we're talking with legislators, we can refer them back to that meeting. So I think this is a great idea.
Brian, do you have any questions or concerns about us doing something, have such a panel discussion or informational presentation?
No, not at all, not at all. And Dr. Harkless, Kathy, is it Harkless?
Dr. Harkless is in Texas now.
Yeah, but he'd be a good, because he's doing a big study about this. He might include him as well if he can, take the time. So for June's meeting, we're going to talk about recruitment. We're going to have CPMA. We're going to have the deans of schools, and maybe Dr. Harkless will join in and give his projections of what his study is looking like. So no problem. It would be a really, really good discussion just to see what the trend is and to see, what the future looks like, right? So
yeah, kind of like future forecasting. Where are we at, and what are the trends about where we're going as far as our, the number of licensees that we're going to be having in California in our specialty. Yeah.
Exactly.
Can I add one more thing? If we are inviting people from outside California, such as Dr. Harkless, another person who's very knowledgeable on the recruitment, student growth, and education and information is Dr. Leonard Levy, and he's out in Florida. He's a past president and director at CSPM long time ago, and he'll be a great resource along with Dr. Harkless.
Yeah, that's going to be a robust agenda. You get all those power players put together.
I'm thinking that might get a bit, I don't know, out of such a scope that it might not be as beneficial. I really would love a report from the two schools in California, the student recruitment issue, both California and nationally. And yes, there's tons of resources here, but then I think we might just be getting bigger.
Overbogged.
And then you get all those panelists in the room, and then we have a different show going on with all those personalities. I'm just thinking that to start, perhaps the two deans presenting the trends in California and the path parity, I think that might be plenty for one board meeting. My concern is if we have all these invitees and we're on webinar, I think that might get out of hand.
Okay.
But I mean, we can go further with this issue depending on what we hear from the, I think having the two deans and the executive director of CPMA, I think that's a good start to hear what they have to say. And then we could always, want to learn more
Reach
after
out,
that.
yeah. Okay.
I think that might be
Sounds
more
good.
practical, more informational, at least for step one, is my opinion.
Okay. Is everybody okay with that?
Yeah, I agree.
Okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's tee up the football and we'll kick it off, and it will be on the agenda, and we'll go ahead and myself and Kathy will work on getting the invites out and go from there.
Great. Thanks, Brian. Appreciate that.
Mhm.
Does anybody else have other future agenda items they'd like to bring forward? Do I request anything from the public at this point?
Yes.
Is that a,
Yes,
okay.
please.
I'd like to open up to public comment then on future agenda items for our next meeting.
Q&A is open. The instructions will be on the screen. If you would like to participate, click on the question mark inside a square, type comment, and send it to all panelists. No requests have been submitted. Would you like me to close the Q&A feature?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're at adjournment. Before we adjourn, I just want to give a big shout out to Elizabeth that has hosted this meeting. And we'll see you March 10th. And thank you for all your hard work.
Thank you, Elizabeth. We look forward to having you help us with our meeting. Is there any other good and welfare before we adjourn?
And welcome, Sammy, to your first board meeting. And welcome to the journey.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all I have.
All right, well, if there's no further business of this meeting of the Podiatric Medical Board of California, I call this meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Everybody take care. Be safe.
Thank you.